Motoring 2012 on TSN is brought to you by Michelin, a better way forward.
As 2011 wound down, car makers, of course, were unveiling their models for 2012. But at the LA Auto Show, Mazda was pulling a fast one. It had its world premiere for the CX-5 model year 2013. Well, it sounds good now, but it might sound a little old when 2013 rolls by. However, there's no secret as to why they developed this particular vehicle. It is a compact SUV, the hottest market right now in Canada, with sales up over 17%. In fact, Mazda is so pumped up about this car, it actually invited journalists last year to drive it, and it was camouflaged. Yeah, a little odd, but now the wraps have been pulled off, so let's check out the new CX-5, a car that Mazda declares will defy convention.
The fact is, this is a turning point for our company. This is more than just a new vehicle. It's a turning point for the brand itself. We weren't really spending a lot of time on making cars more efficient, more fuel efficient, and lower emissions. We knew that had to change. So we embarked on a new journey, and we developed the SkyActiv technology. It's more than just a 2013 car. It's really a shift in our brand, showing the world that we can produce not only fun-to-drive, sport-oriented cars, but also maintain high fuel efficiency standards.
I think first and foremost we needed to do a car that's striking to people, that really brings people to the Mazda, brings people to the CX-5, so it has to catch people's eye. Beyond that, I'm a strong believer that, most people want things that they can't afford, right? We're all like that. So how can we get the sophistication, premium look and feel, kind of a high-end look to this car, really try and elevate the image of the car, and I think that's a big plus with the CX-5. It really looks like a more expensive car than it actually is.
As we all know, the buzz in the automotive world these days is all about electric and hybrids, and for the most part, consumers understand the concept. But Mazda, in defying convention, has decided to go its own way. Their technology is called SkyActiv, and yes, Mazda understands that when it comes to the consumer, it's got some splaining to do.
It's a huge challenge right now. It's a full-time job for me to try to explain what it is. We realize that the hybrid is very easy to conceptualize in one word, and what we're doing is really taking conventional internal combustion technology and advancing the art. So we make a new engine that requires a different body for it to get the most efficiency. So we design the body to accommodate the engine. We design a new transmission that's more efficient, but that also is small enough that it makes the body structure stronger. Things like that, they're all working together. In the end, what you get is a car that looks like a normal gas-powered car, but it's a lot more efficient and more fun to drive. So we had to put some kind of label on that so people would just know how to differentiate it from your average car.
Feels good, a little noisy to go up to speed, but afterwards on the highway, revs fairly low, fuel consumption is good, comfort is good, enough space in the back. So I think they have the right ingredient to be competitive in this segment.
The face of the car, we put a lot of effort into the front end of the vehicle to get a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more upright, more poise to the car, not just your average kind of economy SUV. On the interior, it's all about refinement. It's about ease of use, it's about getting a nice handsome feel, and it's about the materials and finishes.
Your favorite view
of this vehicle? The direct side view of the vehicle is where you really see the poise and stance of the car, and I think that's probably its best view.
Sexy looking engine, isn't it? Well, that's the 2-liter 4-cylinder gasoline engine that comes with the CX-5. Now, the question we were all asking is, since Mazda has a 2.2-liter diesel in Europe, why don't we have it?
Well, they wouldn't tell when, but it was funny because the chief engineer from Japan said they have 1,500 people working on this thing. But yeah, they will have a diesel. We don't know yet in what vehicle it will be, but it'll be next year. They say a year apart between the SkyActiv gas technology and the SkyActiv diesel technology.
We're excited to be back in this segment. We've been out for a while. We think it's going to continue to grow in the years ahead. We think this will continue to be a big segment. There's a lot of other competitors that are bringing out new cars in this area, but no, small crossovers are a blast, and so we're looking forward to it.
Hate the sin, but love the sinner. More later on Kenzie's Corner. Yes, it's foggy out here, but there's no mistaking the clarity of purpose of this car. On this edition of Test Drive, the GS350 from Lexus. At the preview of the Lexus GS350, I was impressed by just how light the full-bodied sedan felt on its tyres. The GS's adaptive suspension does a very good job of quelling body roll without beating the riders up on a rough road. The rear-drive car also benefits from active rear steering. The latter can turn the rear wheels by up to 2 degrees, which imparts a better turn-in and overall precision. It's all a part of the F-Sport package. One of the reasons this GS handled the pylon and braking test so well boils down to the F-Sport package. Now this thing brings a whole bunch of stuff, including better seats, a thicker steering wheel and a body kit. The two most important parts, however, you get better steering and better brakes. Now the latter, they consist of two-piece front rotors, which really do push the brake fade limit a long, long way out. The bottom line, if you're looking at a GS, you've got to buy the S-Sport package. Yes, it's a lot of money, as in $7 grand, but it's worth every cent. The F-Sport option also allows the driver to tweak the manner in which the GS drives. Along with the normal and eco modes, and forget this mode, it's way too soft, comes Sport and Sport Plus. The Sport mode alters the throttle and transmission response, while the Sport Plus mode also firms the suspension and steering, as well as moving the stability control's intervention point further out. Generally, the Sport mode is the right one for all eventualities. It is accommodating when tooling around town, yet sharp enough to tackle a more enthusiastic charge. You know, there's no question that paint technology is getting better every year. Now this Lexus, it has a new coating on it. The luster is wonderful, the name absolutely horrible. It's known as Surprised, Outstanding, Novel, Invented Coating. Mercifully, it's just known as Sonic. The GS350 arrives with a 3.5-litre V6 that delivers 306 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. The power does a surprisingly good job of motivating 1,750 kilograms of leather-lined opulence. I clocked the 0 to 100k time at 6 seconds and the 80 to 120 passing test at 4.7 seconds. Both times are more than up to snuff. Lexus also did a good job of making the GS350 produce the right noises when it's worked. The siren is rewardingly throaty. You see there's an acoustic amplifier built into the intake system. Inside, this GS is very, very nicely finished. Top class materials, very comfortable seats, nice chunky steering wheel, part of that F-Sport package, and you get all of the luxury items you could possibly want. But as is becoming more and more common, most of the functions are controlled through this central controller. Everything from the radio to an iPod to the climate control and your phone. Now, on the subject of the phone, it has a really neat feature. If you get a text or an email, it will read it to you.
You are watching Motoring TV on TSN.
That simple ability means you no longer have to play with your handheld device. If there is a powertrain disappointment, it's the number of gears in the transmission. Certainly the 6 speeds work very well with the engine, and the shifts are smooth when loafing along, yet snappy when the driver flicks one of the steering wheel mounted paddles. However, given the 7 speeds employed by Infiniti and Mercedes-Benz, and the 8 speeds that you'll find in Audis and BMWs, it would behoove Lexus to drop the 8-speed automatic out of the LS430 and into the GS350, especially when it's equipped with the F-Sport option.
Lexus is primarily known as a maker of luxury cars. However, this latest GS350, especially when it's wearing the S-Sport package, really does show that the company has refound its focus. This car is a true delight. What they've done to this car, I hope it transcends the rest of the brand. time to update our long-term Passat. So far, we have sampled 2 of the 3 flavors being offered by Volkswagen. We began with the 2.5-liter 5-cylinder. That was followed by the 3.6-liter V6. And now we get behind the wheel of the TDI. The heart of this sedan is, of course, the 2-liter turbo diesel 4-cylinder engine. It's mated to the optional 6-speed direct shift gearbox, or DSG, along with a manual mode. So far, the V6 has been mine and Graham's favorite, as it conducts itself like a true German sports sedan, even though it, like its siblings, are all built in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But the downside of the V6 is the requirement for premium gasoline. Now, diesel, of course, is no bargain anymore on either side of the border. However, at 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, I'm thinking my bladder and not the fuel gauge will necessitate a visit to the gas station more often than not. Now, 140 horsepower isn't going to get anybody excited, but it's more than enough for highway cruising. And remember, you've got 236 pound-feet of torque, which is great for passing. Now, the new Passat is not only being built in America, it's being built for North Americans, which makes it a larger vehicle than its predecessor. Now, for us, that translates into a really comfortable ride inside, plenty of room for everybody, and plenty of luggage space in that humongous trunk. Now, a couple of pet peeves with the Passat, that is, although it's larger, it does not come with a backup camera, not even an option. For me personally, it's not a big deal. However, you gotta keep your eye on the competition, and even a fully loaded Kia Rio has a backup camera. The other pet peeve, again a small one, the new TDI comes with heated seats, which I love, but they're not powered. We'll have more on a future update.
Oh, it's cold, and the lights are off. Everybody having a happy Earth Hour? If you want to learn more about the fraud that is Earth Hour, check out me, the Menzoid, at motoringtv.com.
How we can sell it is actually with the new CVT transmission. The 0 to 60 time is actually faster than the previous model, even though the previous model had more horsepower. Also, this new vehicle is quite a bit lighter than the previous one, so you get the performance that you want out of the lightweight and with the transmission, and you actually get better performance despite the smaller engine size and output.
So Mazda has said no to hybrid technology, at least for now, but is it concerned that it may lose potential customers who really believe that hybrid and electric are the solution?
A hybrid car is, the effectiveness of that at improving the environment can only be judged on what its actual fuel efficiency is. So it really doesn't matter how you do it. If you do it with a more efficient engine, if you do it with a hybrid, or if you do it with a hybrid that has our more fuel efficient engine, which we'll eventually get around to doing. It really just matters what the fuel economy is.
They're having close in fuel consumption of what hybrids and diesel do. And as long as people get the fuel consumption, you know what? They don't really mind what they have under the hood.
And speaking of fuel efficiency, every Mazda from here on in will be 220 pounds lighter than its predecessor. How about that? All right, let's join Bill Gardner for his motoring tip of the week.
Our motoring tip of the week concerns brake fluid. Now, there's a lot of properties that are inherent and important to brake fluid, like a high boiling point, the fact that it will not freeze, it has to provide lubricity to the brake system, and it also has to absorb moisture and prevent that moisture that could enter the brake system from puddling out and corroding or seizing up any parts in the brake system. Now, a lot of modern cars have a low brake fluid warning lamp on the dash. If and when that light comes on, that's going to prompt you to go under the hood and check the brake fluid level. Before you do that, read the cap, because there's some good instructions right on the cap where you add the fluid. Number one being, it tells you to clean the cap of any grit and dirt that's on there so it doesn't fall inside the system. You also want to make sure that you're getting the appropriate brake fluid for your system. There are different brake fluids, and what applies to your car is very important. Now, as the brakes wear, that fluid is not lost. It just moves to a different point in the system. As your brakes wear, the piston that's down inside this brake caliper advances. It comes out further and further as the pads wear, replaced by fluid in behind that cavity. Now, if you've got low brake fluid level up at the master cylinder and the lights come on, it's probably because the brake pads are worn down and those pistons have come out. So if you're adding a lot of fluid, you're probably also close to time for new brake pads. That's your motoring tip of the week.
Now today we've got my hands on the new 2012 Nissan Rogue. Now apart from a snazzy name, how does this compact crossover stand its ground against what is already a competitive segment within the marketplace?
The exterior is one of the Rogue's finest qualities. This SL version certainly demonstrates it's a close relative to its older sibling, the Murano. A rear spoiler, 18-inch alloys and chrome accents make for what is quite an appealing outer shell.
Now not much has really changed under the hood of this latest model of the Nissan Rogue compared to that of its predecessor. It comes once again with only one engine, a 2.5-litre 4-cylinder that's matted to a CVT transmission. That puts out 170 horsepower and about 175 pounds-feet of torque at 4,500 RPM. I haven't been driving it all day, although initial acceleration is definitely noticeable. If you demand any rapid, quick acceleration or speeds from this motor, it's about as powerful as a fart in a hurricane.
The suspension setup is decent, its dynamic control system effective, and the Rogue withstood a multitude of dreadful downtown roads. The brakes are responsive, and Nissan's brake assist system really came in handy when trying to keep to the speed limit when going down any inclines. If raw power isn't at the top of your list, the Rogue is actually a great pick for small families as well as commuters that need some extra space. There are 3 trim levels available, and you have the option of front or all-wheel drive. The Rogue starts just shy of 24,000, up to the fully loaded SL all-wheel drive version for just over 34k, but that only buys you one front powered seat.
This top-of-the-line Rogue does come with a few goodies worth mentioning. An automatic sunroof, Nissan's intelligent key system, a touchscreen infotainment system, GPS, but without a doubt their crown jewel and proof that technology can trickle down from their premium brand Infinity is something Nissan called their Around View Monitor. So what Nissan have actually done is they've attached 4 super wide angle cameras to both the front, the back and both sides of the Rogue. What does that mean for you as a driver? Well, you now get a 360-degree view of your Rogue at all times, so there's no need to go through any more uncomfortable parking experiences again. Yes, actually, I have 2. The first has to do with, well, I'm sorry to touch on this subject, but size does actually matter, especially when it comes to touch screens. Now, the one in this Rogue is claimed to be 5 inches wide, but I'm sorry, but at best it's just over 4 inches. And my question is, why put in such a silly little screen when you've got such a great piece of technology? At worst, the screen should be at least this big. Now, my second pet peeve has to do with the vehicle information display button. Well, unfortunately on this Rogue, to access that button, you've got to either stick your hand through the steering wheel or around it to get to it. Now, is that just me or does that seem a little bit dangerous?
The noisy CVT aside, I was impressed by the Rogue's comfy seats and bags of room throughout. But I must say, for 36 grand all in, this model is far too pricey for what you get in return. Save yourself 10 grand and buy the base all-wheel drive version, which is the same cake with fewer cherries on top.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2012 is brought to you by
Greener, fuel efficient, global. This is Chevrolet Now, driving our world forward.
Contrary to a belief that seems particularly popular amongst police officers, I don't hate cops. Some of my best friends are cops. It's a tough job. I wouldn't do it in a million years. Now, sometimes I criticize what they do because sometimes what they do is pointless and stupid. But hate the sin, not the sinner. The toughest part about being a cop has to be the stress it puts on the family. There's always the chance that mommy and daddy goes to work and doesn't come home. Now, maybe there's some consolation to be gained from the fact that maybe you die in the line of duty, you're defending somebody in a dangerous situation, staring down a dangerous killer. I mean, it doesn't compensate for the loss, but risk is part of the job. But you know, the fact is, the most common cause of death amongst police officers is traffic crashes. And the stupidest way to die would have to be, well, to have the police chief show up at your front door and say, you know, mommy or daddy died because he or she threw himself in front of a car that was going 15 kilometers faster than the speed limit, and we had to give him a ticket. Really? Really, it happens all the time, as this video shows. Now, in this particular case, the police officer wasn't killed, but look at the danger he's causing to other people, forcing them to back up on the highway. Why do they do this? I mean, we know from statistics that speed basically is irrelevant. Impaired driving, seatbelts, incompetence, that's pretty much it. The number of speeding tickets written is vastly disproportional to the percentage of problems that speed causes in terms of traffic fatalities. Why do cops do it then? Well, cops by definition are adrenaline junkies. You give them a task, they throw themselves into it with all the vigor they can muster. They got to give themselves a bit of a head shake. Doing something like this is just stupid. To your society as a whole, and particularly to your family, you're worth way more than that. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Mazda says the 2013 CX-5 is a vehicle that defies convention. Pretty heavy-duty talk. When it comes to the design, I do like it, but to call it unconventional, I don't think so, although it does resemble its siblings, which is a good thing. No, the unconventional can be found under the skin thanks to SkyActiv technology. It really is a fun, nimble car to drive, maybe the best in this segment so far, but the big news is the fuel economy numbers. If you drive this vehicle properly, it can rival some of the hybrids out there today without having to carry around that toxic battery. Now, is diesel in the future? I sure hope so, but until then, the CX-5 is the first step towards zoom zoom with sustainability. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Don't forget, Toyota got the crap kicked out of them in 2009 and 2010. I think they are on a mission to prove that they make good cars, and they make lots of them, and they're going to cover every possible niche of the market.
Motoring 2012 on TSN has been brought to you by Michelin, a better way forward.